Om Sarvadharmastapakastam Sarvadharmaswarupakaha Acharyanam Mahacharyo Ramakrishnaya Te Namaha. We are studying the great scripture, Sri Ramakrishna, the great master, as the spiritual teacher, second part. And in that, we are in the second chapter. The name of the second chapter is Mood of the Spiritual Teacher and Various Sadhu Sampradayas. That is the name. And in that we have finished almost all. And 2-3 scholars or sadhakas whom Thakur met, Thakur judgment about them we want, for Thakur as Guru to us. Thakur has not been Guru to them, but in his Guru mood he has judged them. And so we will benefit by his judgment or analysis or opinion about them. That is the topic now. We have seen how Narayan Shastri took sannyas from Thakur, how Padmalochan became devoted to Thakur and called him Incarnation. Now, para 51. Once, Swami Dayananda Saraswati, the founder of the Arya Samaj, came to Bengal on a tour and lived for some time in the gentleman's garden in the village called Siti in Baranagar, situated to the north of Calcutta. Nowadays it is taken as a part of Calcutta, Baranagar, Siti, all that. And here it is mentioned, Dayananda Saraswati, the founder of the Arya Samaj. Because this name Dayananda Saraswati, even now recently that Arshavidyalaya, that Swami also used to call himself Dayananda Saraswati. So it has been specifically mentioned, the founder of Arya Samaj. But at that time he has not founded. Dayananda Saraswati, who is Dayananda Saraswati? The founder of Arya Samaj. And on the tour he had come to Calcutta. Although he was very well known as a good scholar, he did not then preach his own doctrine and had not founded his organization. Doctrine he had not stated what is his opinion about certain things and the logic behind them, and had not made an organization called the Arya Samaj. He was known as a scholar. On hearing of him, one day the master came there to pay him a visit. We already seen it was master's habit. If a scholar of Shastra or sadhak came there, Thakur used to see him. So he had gone to see him. for our benefit. Every action of Thakur is for the benefit of humanity. In the course of a conversation on Dayananda, the master said to us on one occasion, so that is the thing he has told his disciples. I went to see him in the garden of Siti. I found that he had acquired a little power. Some Siddha has come to him. His chest was always red. That is pranayam, dhyan. So his chest is always red. He was in the state of Vaikhari. What is Vaikhari and state of Vaikhari? Our language which we speak is described in three different ways. Vaikhari, Madhyama, Pashyanti. That means we talking within ourselves. We are seeing something but not expressed outside. That is Pashyanti. And Madhyama is our lips may move, but we are not explicitly talking even then. Mentally we are talking. And Vaikhari is the manifested speech. That is the name of the Vaikhari Vani. Not his Vaikhari state that Siddha or that has helped him to continuously speak. He has got a mastery of speaking. That is Vaikhari Avastha. Speaking on scriptural subjects night and day. He is not speaking faltu things, speaking of scriptural subject. He misapplied grammar and twisted the meaning of many words. Straight away Thakur has told. Those who critically study the books written by him, Sattar Prakash, all his arguments and everything. So that is a scholar. To call him good scholar is a misnomer. So here it is clearly mentioned. One thing is misapplied grammar and twisted the meaning of many words. Sanskrit is such a funny language that any meaning can come out of any word by twisting the grammar. Meaning of many words of scriptures. He had in his mind the egoism. I will do something. I will found a doctrine. So that was when Thakur saw him. Later on he founded a doctrine and established a Samaj, Arya Samaj. Their doctrine, if you want to know, is, well, the speaker, I studied in Arya Samaj school from the first standard up to matriculation. And I passed 3 out of 4 examinations of conducted by the Arya Samaj, other than the school curriculum. Siddhanta Saroj, Siddhanta Ratna, Siddhanta Bhaskar. And the last is called Siddhanta Shastri. I did not do that because I hated to be called a Shastri. And so, I know a little of their doctrine. Now, Tritvavad. He believes 3 things are eternally real. Ishvara is real, Prakriti is real, and Jivas are real. And out of that Prakriti, Ishwar creates the world, and Jivas, karma and all that, they suffer. That is their doctrine. And Ishwar is Nirakar. Historically, this thing has a little importance. One day I told you that by the Western onslaught, Christianity onslaught, they were pointing out certain things as defects of Hinduism. And one of them was Murti Puja. Let me tell you the story about Dayananda. He was a Gujarati Brahmin, Mool Shankar was his name. And they were Orthodox Brahmin. So Shivratri Puja was done in their house on the Shivalingam. And fruits and flowers and everything was heaped upon that Shiva. Then they found out next morning or that night that a mouse came and carried away some fruit from there. And that produced a reaction in the Ananda's mind. That what is this God? He cannot protect a fruit and mouse can carry it. So there is no God in image. Now, if you had a little bhav, you would have understood the symbology behind it. And we may go forward to say that for God, what is this stealing? We may easily suppose that God has given this fruit to that mouse. You know, mice are not less important. In Rajasthan, I visited a temple. I don't remember the name of the place, but it is near Bikaner. Mother's temple. The whole flooring is mice. And some white mice rare and ordinary mice throughout. Difficult for you to step somewhere. You will step on the mice. And the people believe that they are all bhaktas of the mother. They have gone to Mother Loka in the mice form. So, Hinduism, everything is deified. Anyway, don't want to comment more. But I would say a grossness of the mind, not perceiving the bhav of man. And then he started debating everywhere, Shastrartha, and by misuse of grammar, as Thakur has told, he started defeating the Pandits so-called, or anyway. And then he established the Samaj. So that was a reaction against the Christians preaching that you are idolaters. So Hinduism is not idolatry. That is a later addition, we don't want it. It was Thakur alone who stood upon Hinduism in full and said that some defects might have crept in the worshippers, not in the religion. And with the help of murtis, man can realize the highest. And so, historical importance to save Hinduism from the onslaught of Christians, these were useful, not more than that. And some other things are beautiful in Arya Samaj teaching. They don't observe caste at all. That is the main point. So, that is egoism. I'll do something, I'll found a doctrine. But this much about Dayananda. 2-3 lines Thakur has summed up and taught us what is Dayananda. Now next, Pandit Jay Narayan. The master said about Pandit Jay Narayan, although a great scholar, he was free from pride. He had foreknowledge of the time of his death and said that he would go to Kashi and pass away there. And so it happened. So faith in the scriptures. Two more points of Dayananda I will tell. He does not believe in Shraddha. The Arya Samaji scholars would say, you are sending food parcel without any address, how it will go. So the subtler perception is missing. All the Vedas, he believes in Vedas. But the Vedas are telling us about this. Anyway, now Krishna Kishore, the devotee, And Thakur will tell both sides of this person. The master mentioned many times. If you read Kathamrit, this Krishna Kishore comes very often. The master mentioned many times the great devotee to Sri Ramachandra of Krishna Kishore Bhattacharya of Aryada. Aryada also near Calcutta. He used to visit his house. Thakur used to visit his house because it was near. The highly devoted wife of Krishna Kishore also had much devotion for the master. So they were devotees. Also means Krishna Kishore also had devotion for the master. The master said that Krishna Kishore had great devotion even to the mantra Mara as a great one, imparted by the Rishi, let alone his devotion to the name Ram. You know the history, it is given here. For that word as a mantra was, it is written in the Purana, imparted by the Rishi Narada to Valmiki, then a notorious highwayman. And as a result of its repeated utterance with devotion, the extraordinary divine play of Sri Ramachandra was manifested in Valmiki's mind, and this made him the poet and author of Ramayana. That is the story. He was a highway robber. And then Narada was passing that way. And some people say his name was Ratnakar Dasyu. And he caught him. And he wanted to loot him, murder him, or whatever. Narada said, I want to ask you one question. Why are you doing like this? He said, to support my family. He said, you go and ask your family, each member, whether they will share the sin which you are incurring by this method. So he went and asked everybody, his son and father and mother and wife. Everybody said, that is your business to earn money for us. What we are doing is not our concern. Why should we share your sin? Wife and everybody whom he loved said this. That opened his eyes. And then he fell at feet of Narada and said, please save me. Now Narada wanted to give him the mantra Rama. But his habit of speech had become so bad that he could not utter the word Rama. Then Narada said, all right, Mara. Now if you repeatedly say Mara, 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 automatically it is becoming Rama. But if you ask him to utter Rama, it's impossible. So you utter the word Mara. And then he meditated with this mantra for such a long time that the ant hill came about his body. That is called Valmika. And so he is named as Valmiki. After many years, when he became perfected with the help of that name Mara, he became a Rishi and he could foresee what is happening in Rama's life. And so he wrote that Valmiki Ramayana. So Krishna Kishore has such a faith. When Valmiki could be cured by the mantra Mara, that also is a great mantra. Krishna Kishore met with much grief and misery in the world. Two of his grown-up sons died. The effect of the grief due to the death of one son, the master said, was so great that even Krishna Kishore, although a great devotee, could not control himself and was overwhelmed with grief. More he has not given here, but Thakur in the Kathamrita has told, great faith he had. Now when he went to drink water at a well, the man who was drawing water, he said that I belong to the low caste. He said, utter the word Rama and draw water, I will take it. That was his faith. Another incident is that about sadhus, Haldari said that some bad words about these sadhus. They are, after all, body is made of clay and like that. Krishna Keshwar believed that the body of a sadhu has become so pure, it is not made of clay. So when he said that, I heard that Haldari said like that, when he used to come to Dakshineshwar, he would not face or look at Haldari. That was his faith. And once he used to say, I am Kha, I am Akasha like space. So when the tax people wanted to tax his house and they will sell up his house, he was slightly worried. Thakur said, why are you worried? You are Kha. So that was the friendly relation, and we can read the other way around. That in spite of all this, he felt misery when the sons were died. And Thakur is telling this as an example of how pain one feels when the son dies. We can read the other way. Though he wept, he was a devotee. And that is why Thakur is telling about him. Then, besides the sadhakas mentioned above, the masters of Maharshi Devendranath Tagore, Pandit Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar and others, he spoke to us occasionally of the Maharshi's liberal devotion and Ishwar Chandra's attachment to the yoga of action. So, Devendranath's Udar Bhakti, broad-minded devotion, that is Devendranath. Not much about him. In Kathamrita we will find more. And Ishwar Vidyasagar he had visited. And Ishwar Vidyasagar was attached to Karma Yoga. That is what Thakur is telling us. Thakur told about him that inside there is gold, but he is not yet aware of that. Okay. So we come to the end of the chapter and proceed to the next chapter. A very big chapter. Chapter 3rd. Pilgrimage of the Master as the Guru and his company with the holy men. So holy men who came to Dakshineshwar, Thakur met them, and then he went out on pilgrimage and came to know about the situation of whole of India and the world by his mixing with the sadhus, and then he understood that his experiences are unique, and then he will tell his, what is his thought, not a particular doctrine, the harmony with all the disciples, and we call him Acharya, Nam Acharya. So this is a preparation. He knows the Brahman, but he has to know the condition of religious people in general so that he can improve upon their condition. So here there is a shloka again, and the shloka is Yad Yad Vibhutimat Sattvam Shrimad Urjitameva Va Tattadeva Vagachattam Mama Tejomsha Sambhavam. Gita Vibhuti Yog, many shlokas we got. This is the last shloka, that whatever you see is little raised above humanity, you know, my special manifestation is there. So, that is how now Thakur is eating pilgrimages and meeting sadhus. It is not in the power of man to record everything about the divine play of the master, as the spiritual teacher established in Bhamu, enacted with so many people in so many places and in so many ways. We have already made a present of a little of it to the reader. It was also in accordance with the same mood that he went on pilgrimage. We shall now try to narrate them to the reader. In comparison with the likes of other spiritual teachers, the master's was novel and wonderful, something special. As far as we saw, no action of the master was aimless or useless. If we study even the very ordinary daily actions of his life, not to speak of the special events, they are found to be full of profound meaning. Again, in the modern age, we have not seen a single life in the spiritual world so full of unusual occurrences. Man cannot attain the complete experience of any one of the innumerable aspects of God, even by the practice of lifelong efforts and austerities, let alone his realizing Him and having visions of Him in various aspects. His direct perception, by dint of sadhana, of all kinds of religious doctrines as true, and is helping the aspirants in following all those doctrines and in going forward along their own point paths. So he could help sadhakas going by different paths because he had found that all paths lead to the same goal and he had traversed them and seen the results. So he could guide, that is his Guru Bhav, universal. Far from having any peer in the spiritual world, he stands out as one really unheard of. Each of the great souls of the ancient ages, the seers, the teachers, and the divine incarnations resourced, resorted to the means of a particular spiritual mood, realized God thereby, and proclaimed that to be the only path leading to the vision of God. This only path suppressed the other bhavas. They had not the opportunity of knowing their God might be known through various other moods also. The mental approach nor time they did not have. Or they themselves might have realized that truth, more or less. So he is very broad, Saradananda Swamiji. He does not deny that none of them did like that. They might have realized, more or less, but they did not publicly declare it, thinking that such preaching might undermine the firm faith and devotion of the people to the chosen ideal. So that is what Thakur found. If man is intense sadhaka, he is narrow. If he is broad-minded, he is shallow. And that is why Thakur tells us to be as broad as the sky and as deep as the ocean. And that was possible for Thakur. And thereby thwart or harm their realization of spirituality. Nishtha will go, that is what they thought. But Thakur has taught Ishta Nishtha. You remain steadfast in the path suitable to you, but do not condemn others, because that limits God. But whatever may be the motive, history of spirit, but whatever may be the motive, history bears testimony to the fact that they preached as the Guru narrow religious doctrines only, which became in course of time a perennial source of jealousy, hatred, and even of bloodshed on many occasions. So that is what happened. They emphasized something. They said this only is the truth. So there was quarrel in between. That was not all. The narrow sectarian ideals gave rise to various doctrines contrary to one another and made the path to realization of God so intricate that it appeared impossible to the human intellect to disentangle that intricacy and have the vision of God, the truth. That means man is faced with so many doctrines. Then he puzzled whether this is true or that is true. So instead of proceeding by any path, he just stuck up with which is better, which is better. Again, taking the time to be propitious, so to say, Western materialism, which regarded this worldly life and enjoyments as all in all, entered through education into India with irresistible force. Yes, that was what were forcing India. Even today that continues. It denied the minds of the boys and young men of impressionable intellect and flooded the country with those baneful foreign ideas and ideals of atheism and worldliness. Saradananda is direct in his language. He is not criticizing any religious doctrine, but he is criticizing that thought which prohibits us from taking up any religion, atheism and worldliness. These days, some people, politically or socially, he believes in a God is something condemnable. If he labels himself as a Hindu, it is condemnable. They say he is narrow. Who can say how widespread that wretched condition would have become had not religion been re-established by the advent of this extraordinary master? A glowing example of purity, renunciation, and love of God. So, Thakur alone has solved the problem of India and the whole world. What the master has proved in his life and what the scope of his liberal doctrines will be in future. He himself practiced all religions and showed that none of the different aspects of God which were realized in ancient sages by the great souls, the seers, the teachers and the incarnation born in India and abroad, and none of the various methods of knowing him preached by them was false. None of the method is false, none of the doctrines is false, but all were perfectly true. That the aspirant who has faith, the aspirant requires faith, may become blessed by realizing God, even today, in proceeding like them along those paths. So all paths are valid. That although there existed a mountain-like wall of partition between the Hindus and the Muslims on account of mutually contradictory social manners, customs, etc., the religious faiths of both were true and worshipping the same God in different ways and going forward along different paths. Both of them would be in course of time, both of them would be in course of time, one in love with love itself. Love itself is God. And they will become love in love itself. That standing on the foundation of that truth alone, they would in course of time bind each other in the embrace of love. Forget the age-long quarrels and attain peace, and that believing in the truth of the religious doctrines preached by the seers and the incarnations of India and of other countries, including that preached by Jesus, the West running up. So what will happen? Preached by Jesus is to some extent present in the West, but they are given to materialism. running headlong toward the enjoyment of pleasure, would realize in course of time that there was peace only in renunciation and become blessed by harmonizing its life of action with religion. Their good point is life of action. Bad point is dying for Bhoga. They will realize, seeing Thakur's life, that Bhoga will not satisfy. So they will take up religion and their action will be changed into Karma Yoga. The more we proceed with the study of the life of this wonderful master, here let me comment a little. Thakur practiced that branch of Mohammedanism which is called Sufism. And some people say, anyway. So the Muslims of other denominations, what will happen to them, their God alone knows. One very good sadhaka, Armir Imamovich from Bosnia, had come to Rishikesh and stayed 1 month, twice with me. And he said there are three religions in his country: Islam, Catholic Christianity, and Orthodox Christianity, Grecian. And the only religion they know is to kill each other. And he said, I want to take Eastern light into my country. And he told me that the Sufis call themselves Muslims so that the Muslims should not beat them. And Sufis only will help him in his task of spreading Eastern lights there. So, anyway, the more we proceed with the study of the life of this wonderful master, the more shall we see, of course, as Thakur has shown, and as we have found, many wonderful Mohammedans. I will give one example. In Kadapa in Andhra Pradesh, one Muslim, proportionately rich man, built a temple for Sri Ramakrishna and worshipped in that temple for many years of his life. And now his descendants have given that to Ramakrishna Mission, and Ramakrishna Mission is a center in Kadapa, started by the Mohammedan. And a Mohammedan doctor came to meet Mahapuruji in Ooty along with his wife. And of course, they are Mohammedans in name, but believers in Krishna or Rama or something. They are devotees. So, and automatically they believe in Sri Ramakrishna. Those whose mind is sincere and has become broad enough, they immediately take up Sri Ramakrishna's ideas. The more we proceed with the study of the life of this wonderful master, the more shall we see that it does not belong to any particular country, community, nation or religion. All the peoples of the world will have to take refuge in his liberal doctrine someday, for they cannot afford to forego peace. That is the only way to peace. Established in Bhavamukha, the master will enter into all sects and groups in the form of those liberal ideas. Another thing, whatever the sects or groups believe, their ideas will become broader. Their ideas will become more liberal. In the form of those liberal ideas and breaking asunder the limitations produced by all kinds of narrowness, will cast them in his new mold, will bind them together with a cord of unity never known before. So the religions also will feel unity. Comparative religions, intra-religious dialogue have started throughout the world. The proof thereof, he is giving the proof that the aspirants of all the mutually contradictory and cantankerous religious denominations of India came to the Master, saw in him the perfect ideals of their own respective spiritual moods, and were convinced that he was a traveler on their own particular path, is proof of what has been said above. Everybody saw Thakur as their ideal. The work of the spiritual teaching of the Master as the Guru thus started in India for bringing about unity between the religious communities here will not stop with the removal of the religious quarrels in this country or Asia alone, but overcoming slowly the lack of religion from the West and the hatred thereof, hatred of religion. In Europe, the world with a serene and tranquil step, it will establish all over the world a reign of peace never experienced before. He is sure of that, so he is expressing that everything takes time, but the things going on are indicative of that. Do you not notice how quickly the work has been proceeding since the passing away of the Master? Do you not notice again how the ideas of the Master have entered America and Europe through the revered Swami Vivekananda, to whom his Guru was as dear as his life? That is Swami Vivekananda. Was he as dear as his life or more than his own life? Guru Gata Pran. Oh. No. This is a very different direction, different, stronger expression than Guru was dear to him than his life. Guru Grata Pran. Pran is heart, his eye consciousness. Swami Vivekananda was functioning in Sri Ramakrishna, Guru Gata. His Pran was Guru Gata. His life did not exist in himself. His life existed in Thakur. That is Swami Vivekananda. And how they have, during this short period, produced a revolution in the thought world. About this, I will tell something. Our London Center, Swami Gananji was there, and they produced a book on Swamiji centenary, even before on Thakur centenary, and there one British professor is writing, philosophy professor, that the influence of Swami Vivekananda on the entire Western philosophy has to be studied critically. That the other philosopher has also to say something they were not recognizing. Now, two things he has shown. Each person has started paying respect to the other philosophy, and each philosophy is nearing Advaita. That is what he has shown. So that is what Swami Saradananda is hinting. They have during this short period produced a revolution in the thought world. In the irresistible march of time, the unfailing body of ideas will spread its influence over all people, all religions, and all societies, and bring about a wonderful revolution. Now, from outside, if you want to see how many countries Ramakrishna Mission is starting. Long, long back, I remember when Ghana became independent, its first Prime Minister or President, whoever was Nkrumah, he came to India and requested Ramakrishna Mission to start a branch there. Ramakrishna Mission could not accept because short of hands. But now, many South African countries, many European countries, Russia, two centers. China in Beijing, there is a Vivekananda seat of philosophy in Beijing University and a seat for comparative religions. So that is the spreading the influence over all peoples, all religions and all society and bring about a wonderful revolution. Who has the power to resist his progress? Who can withstand the influence of this body of ideas, glowing with the benevolent power of unprecedented purity and austerity? The instruments. Oh, and another wonderful thing is telling a non-sectarian thing. The instruments through which it is being spread at the present time will be broken. Ramakrishna Mission will be broken. That is what is declaring. Many will not perhaps be able to detach themselves and understand its source. Detach. That means they will not even remember that Ramakrishna gave these ideas. But the ideas will spread. Somebody asked me the other day, why Swami Vivekananda did not preach Ramakrishna? He said Ramakrishna is the ideas and that I am preaching. বহুকাল পরে अनेके धरिते बुझते पारबे ना यहाँ पर एक डिटैच यहाँ शब्द क्या गया है many will not perhaps be able to understand its source but it is certain that all the peoples of the world will in order to feel blessed have to cast their lives in this mode have carefully to cherish in their hearts this mass of ideas glowing with the serene light of infinite glory. Now he is telling another thing. He is stating all these things and not as a dogma at all. So he wants to show us how to understand it. How to understand the spirit of the master's idea. Therefore, do not, O reader, stop merely with reading like tales. The fact just narrated about the aspirants of different religious denominations of India who came to the master and were blessed with the realization of true spirituality. Just is a story we have heard this. No. See the current. Try first of all to grasp and understand as far as possible the mass of divine ideas of the extraordinary master established in Bhava. Try to understand Thakur's ideas first. And then diving deep into those stories, see how the movement sprang up and developed and spread its influence At first, over the people educated according to the old system, then over those educated in the new method, and afterwards, crossing the boundaries of India, entered into other countries and produced a revolution in the thought world. Thought world has to change. That is the main thing. The ideas and the ideals of the master were first promulgated among the sadhus of all communities who came to Dakshineshwar and who came in contact with him during his pilgrimage. The first spread of the mass of ideas of the master took place among the aspirants of the various religions. Let me tell you two stories. In Kankar, in Haridwar rather, there was so much quarrel among the different sects of sadhus. The Vedantis would hold themselves superior than the Udasis. And in Vedantis, the Niranjani Akhada and Mahanirvani Akhada, they would not go or invite each other to their Vandara. They would not like to mix with each other. I have seen that in my eyes. And Swami Vivekananda was the head of Kankal Ashram. Whether the Mahanirvani or Niranjani, they would meet each other in Ramakrishna Mission Bhandaras. Though sadhu feeding, though we were not offering any dakshina in those days, and yet all different and Varishananji and Ramakrishna Mission sadhus were invited by both Nirvanis and Niranjanis. That was the fusing power. And today the situation has changed. Today when I go there, I see there is a Dashanami Akhada and there is a Sadhu Samaj society where sadhus of all types meet. So that is the change brought about. Similar thing happened in London. Bhavyananji told us. It was Thakur Swamiji's centenary. And in England, the main religion is Protestant Christianity. And Catholics are a few. But the Catholic monk was old and venerated. Now, Bhavananji called the Parliament of Religions and had decided to make that Catholic sadhu as the president. And people approached him that if you do like that, no Protestant will come. He said, let me see. So, two branches of Christianity, Protestant and Catholic, quarreling in England, and they would meet each other harmoniously in the Ramakrishna Mission. And the Catholic was made the president. And all Protestants came and they mixed with each other properly. So both in India and outside, I have been blessed to see this transformation. Now it has to spread throughout society, and it is spreading, wonderfully spreading, because again and again he is mentioning the master established in Bhava. The first spread of the mass of ideas of the master took place among the aspirants of the various religious communities of India. Whenever the master practiced any particular doctrine and realized perfection in it, the followers of that very doctrine, as we said before, came to him of themselves, saw in him their perfect ideal, and got help from him before they left. Besides, at the request of Mathur Babu and the devout Jagdamba Dasi, his wife, the master went on a pilgrimage up to Vrindavan. Up to Vrindavan means if you start from Calcutta, Kashi comes first, then Vrindavan. So up to Vrindavan. There is no lack of monks and devotees in places of pilgrimage like Kashi and Vrindavan. Therefore, it is not merely a guesswork of ours, but we had some indication of the fact from the Master himself that eminent sadhakas of those holy places met him and became blessed through the help of his power as the Guru. It is necessary to record here a little of what he said. So what Sri Ramakrishna himself said about Kashi and Vrindavan is being presented here. Passing through various states, high and low in his life, and having various experiences, the Master had an extraordinary power of spiritual teaching manifested in him. We'll study this tomorrow. Om Sarvadharma Stapakasvam Sarvadharma Swarupakah Acharyanam Acharyo Ramakrishnaya Te Namaha. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Tat Sat. Sri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu. Tomorrow is Shivratri. There is no holiday. We will have classes both in the morning and in the evening. Day after tomorrow, we have holiday for the morning class. And evening there is no class because of Wednesday. Hari Om.